Warfare is often decided not by the strongest army, but by the most brilliant liars. Throughout history, cunning commanders have used brilliant illusions to manipulate their enemies into making fatal mistakes. Today, we are looking at 12 military deceptions that made entire armies attack ghosts. During the Second World War, the United States military deployed a top-secret tactical deception unit known as the Ghost Army. This unique battalion of artists, sound engineers, and set designers used inflatable tanks and massive speakers blasting armored column sounds to trick German forces into believing an American force was massing on their doorstep. By broadcasting fake radio traffic and setting up elaborate dummy camps, complete with fake laundry hanging on clotheslines, the Ghost Army drew intense enemy fire away from actual combat units. The illusion was so convincing that German spotters repeatedly called in devastating artillery strikes on completely empty fields. They wasted their precious ammunition, while actual American divisions safely advanced miles away. In one of the most brilliant deceptions of the 20th century, British intelligence completely fooled the Axis powers in 1943 by using a deceased homeless man dressed as a Royal Marine officer. Codenamed Operation Mincemeat, this audacious plan involved planting fake top-secret documents on the corpse, which was dumped off the coast of Spain to be found by pro-German sympathizers. The forged letters strongly suggested the upcoming Allied invasion would target Greece and Sardinia instead of the obvious objective of Sicily. Adolf Hitler fell for the bait, ordering panzer divisions to redeploy and leaving the actual target underdefended. When the massive Allied armada finally struck Sicily, the German army realized too late they had rearranged their defenses for a phantom threat. To ensure the success of the D-Day landings at Normandy, the Allies orchestrated Operation Fortitude South, a masterclass in strategic misdirection. This operation created an entire fictitious army group commanded by the legendary General George S. Patton. The first United States Army group existed only on paper and in the airwaves. Yet it convinced the German High Command that the main invasion force would cross the English Channel at the Pas de Calais. Allied intelligence fed the Germans a constant stream of false reports through turned double agents, while dummy landing craft filled the harbors of southeastern England. Fearing Patton more than any other general, the Germans kept their elite armored reserves stationed near Calais for weeks. Long before modern technology allowed for radio spoofing, ancient commanders relied on pure psychological warfare, best exemplified by Chancellor Zhuge Liang's legendary empty city strategy. Facing a vastly superior invading army with only a handful of aging soldiers left to defend his fortress, Zhuge Liang ordered the city gates thrown open and instructed his men to sweep the streets, disguised as civilians. He then sat atop the city walls, peacefully playing a stringed instrument while the massive enemy vanguard approached. The opposing general, knowing Zhuge Liang's reputation for brilliant ambushes and flawless tactical traps, became convinced this serene display was bait for a massive hidden army. Terrified of walking into a slaughter, the invading force immediately retreated. During the brutal North African campaign of 1942, British General Bernard Montgomery needed to break through Erwin Rommel's heavily fortified lines at El Alamein. To hide his true intentions, Montgomery launched Operation Bertram, an industrial-scale deception that involved disguising hundreds of British tanks as harmless supply trucks, using custom-built canvas canopies. Simultaneously, the British constructed thousands of fake tanks out of palm fronds and scrap wood in the southern sector of the battlefield. They even built a massive fake water pipeline to convince Rommel the main attack would occur there weeks later. When Montgomery finally launched his massive offensive in the north, the German forces were caught completely off guard. having deployed to defend against a wooden armada. In the scorching deserts of the Middle East during the First World War, British intelligence officer Richard Meinerzhagen executed a daring piece of theatrical deception known as the Haversack Ruse. Riding out into the desolate no-man's land, Meinerzhagen deliberately allowed himself to be chased by Ottoman cavalry patrols, pretending to be a panicked courier. During his staged escape, he intentionally dropped a blood-stained haversack containing fake operational plans detailing a massive upcoming assault on the city of Gaza. The Ottoman commanders eagerly devoured the planted intelligence, shifting their entire defensive line to meet this fabricated frontal assault, while leaving the crucial flank at Beersheba dangerously exposed. The subsequent British cavalry charge tore through the weakened flank with devastating efficiency. The skies over Vietnam witnessed one of the most brilliant aerial deceptions in military history, when American fighter ace Robin Olds orchestrated Operation Bolo. The heavily armed American F-4 Phantom fighters had been struggling to engage North Vietnamese MiGs, which typically only attacked vulnerable F-105 Thunder Chief bombers before fleeing back to base. Olds ordered his elite Phantom squadrons to adopt the exact radio call signs, flight paths, and radar jamming pods normally used by the lumbering bomber formations. When the North Vietnamese ground controllers scrambled their interceptors to feast on what they thought were helpless bombers, the MiGs burst through the clouds, only to find themselves surrounded by F-4 Phantoms. The resulting ambush devastated the North Vietnamese Air Force. As German U-boats wreaked havoc on Allied shipping lanes during the First World War, the British Royal Navy deployed a fleet of heavily armed merchant vessels, known as Q-ships. These decoy vessels were intentionally designed to look like rusty, dilapidated cargo ships, plodding along the ocean's surface as tempting targets. When a U-boat surfaced to sink the seemingly defenseless vessel with its deck gun to save precious torpedoes, the Q-ship crew would execute a rehearsed panic. At the last possible second, the fake cargo crates and wooden bulkheads would instantly collapse, revealing an array of heavy naval artillery. This hidden firepower immediately blasted the exposed German submarine out of the water, turning the ultimate oceanic predators into oblivious prey. When Axis bombers threatened to obliterate the critical Allied naval base at Alexandria during the Second World War, a British stage illusionist named Jasper Maskelyne orchestrated an incredible deception. Recognizing that German night bombers relied heavily on the distinct shape of the coastline and the reflection of the moon on the water, the British camouflage unit constructed a massive replica of the harbor several miles down the coast. Using mud, canvas, and a network of precisely timed searchlights, they created a perfect illuminated decoy that looked exactly like the bustling naval base. As air raid sirens wailed, the real harbor was plunged into total darkness, while the fake harbor lit up, tricking the Luftwaffe into bombing empty coastal swamps. During the 1991 Gulf War, the United States military executed an operational deception that pinned down thousands of Iraqi soldiers on the coast of Kuwait, without ever putting a single Marine on the beach. Coalition forces heavily publicized the presence of a massive Marine amphibious task force floating in the Persian Gulf, constantly conducting highly visible landing exercises. To sell the illusion, Navy SEALs covertly swam ashore at night to plant explosive charges on the beaches, detonating them to simulate the preliminary bombardment of a coastal invasion. Saddam Hussein was convinced that the main American assault would come directly from the sea. Meanwhile, General Norman Schwarzkopf unleashed his famous left hook, swinging his armored troops through the undefended western desert. Napoleon Bonaparte achieved his greatest tactical masterpiece at the Battle of Austerlitz in 1805 by deliberately projecting an aura of desperate weakness to manipulate the combined Russian and Austrian armies. The French emperor intentionally abandoned the highly advantageous high ground of the Pratzen Heights, ordering his troops to retreat in a disorganized manner that convinced Allied commanders his army was collapsing. To further sell the illusion, Napoleon sent frantic messengers begging for an armistice, practically inviting the vastly superior enemy force to crush his supposedly shattered right flank. When the overconfident Allied forces abandoned the high ground to deliver the final blow, they fell perfectly into Napoleon's trap. A massive, hidden French corps surged forward to shatter the enemy center. In the chaotic early hours of D-Day, the Allies unleashed Operation Titanic, dropping hundreds of fake burlap paratroopers over the French countryside to throw the German defenders into absolute panic. These ingenious decoys, affectionately nicknamed Ruperts by British troops, were equipped with small explosive charges designed to simulate the sound of rifle fire when they hit the ground. As the dummies drifted down from the night sky, operatives positioned nearby played loud recordings of men shouting combat orders. The German garrisons frantically reported airborne assaults occurring all over Normandy, deploying their rapid response units to hunt down pieces of explosive burlap. By the time the Germans realized they were fighting literal scarecrows, the real Allied paratroopers had secured the crucial bridges. Which of these brilliant military deceptions do you think required the most tactical genius to pull off? Let us know your answer down in the comments, and make sure to subscribe to the channel.